He has the lowest usage rate of his career, 19%. So I don't want to hear, oh, it's Melo's fault and all that.
I just don't think he has it anymore.
Should any team want Carmelo Anthony?
Blasphemous.
Yes, sir, Carmelo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to catch our weekly podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're a returner, a subscriber, or better yet, a Control the Narrative member, we appreciate you as always. Episode 91. Been a weird season. I'm going to kind of shorten these intros instead of like giving everybody context. I'm just going to say, fuck it. Let's bring in our guests. We have Velo in the top right, who has been on a few podcasts before. Velo, how you doing tonight, bro?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thanks for having me. 3-0 for the third time for being on the show.
There you go. Good shit. And we have a first timer on the podcast,
Sure.
even though he's been rocking with us for a minute. It's about time we got him on. Him and I have played basketball before. We've got him on the podcast. So, Raamish, welcome to the show, buddy.
What's up, guys? One to the dome. It's my first time.
One to the dome. Good having you both on. Thank you both for taking time out to hop on and talk some Melo with me.
Yes, sir.
Velo, let's start with you top right. Let's just get right into it. I want to try to make these intros a little shorter. So lately, Melo hasn't been utilized as much as he was earlier in the season. You know, last night he had a 0-point game. He did take 7 shots, went 0 for 7. But what are your thoughts in general? And you could take this as over the past 2 weeks. You can take this as the whole season. Just how do you think Melo's been utilized in LA?
So I've been happy with the fact that he's getting the minutes, right? And I know they play like 5 overtimes, which is like 20% of their games have been overtimes. And he is the closer. He is in that closing lineup. So I think sometimes his numbers might be even a little bit inflated because of that early on. Because I think he's like close to 29, 30 minutes a game, which in reality, if they didn't play probably like 5 overtimes, would be at 26, 27. So I think overall he is getting the minutes, which is really good. I love the fact that he is closing games and that, Vogel has counted on him. I don't think he closed the game yesterday, and maybe against the Kings, he kind of like took him off and then brought him back on. He hit that big 3. But overall, I want to say 95% of the games or more, he is closing the games. So I like to see that. I like for him to be on the court. I saw some good passes yesterday. And that's kind of like where I feel that, Lakers are missing, right? Because we know it's going to be about the 360, right? About LeBron and about Russ and AD and whatnot. But I genuinely feel that Melo has won them probably 4 or 5 games so far this year, early on, right? And they would be like below 500 team if he didn't have some of those, amazing performances early on and shooting the ball extremely well, being probably the hottest shooter with Steph Curry in the league for a while. So I want to say I'm going to die on this hill, but I feel like he should start still. I know, I've been, talking with our Control the Narrative fam on Twitter and, who should he start? Should he not start? I feel like he should pretty much be on the floor every time LeBron is on the floor. So make sure that, he starts, get him as many minutes with LeBron, because honestly, I feel like LeBron is the only one that's consistently looking for him and wants to get him touches to kind of get him going. You can kind of see that.
Rondo, but they don't give fucking Rondo minutes.
Yeah, and I wish they would just run 2 or 3 plays a game just for him to actually some post screen action, some cross screen where he can get that ball and just to get it going a little bit outside of, because I think a lot of times they're just looking for him to shoot a 3 right away instantly as his first shot, and if he doesn't make first 1 or 2, it's kind of like dead end from there. But if the first one goes in, then you're kind of like in trouble, right? So we all know he's a rhythm player and that he needs those touches just to kind of get to feel the ball. So I wish when they do bring him in, even if it's off the bench, that they try to look for him a little bit longer and more consistently, because we saw on the game against Kings, for 15 minutes he didn't even touch the ball. He might have made some passes, but that was about it. He didn't even shoot the ball for 15 minutes with overtime. So that's it for me on that part.
All right. Raamish, what do you think? How do you think Melo's been utilized lately for this season?
I wanted to make a point here. It's a good thing that you have control because this is a narrative about Melo that we need to control right now. So if you remember, like we saw Olympic Melo, and he used to just shoot all these threes, and it was like efficient and effective field goal percentage and all that shit, right? So everyone wanted him to do that in the NBA, and this year he's actually doing it. So I have the stats right now. I don't want to hear no hate. All right, no hate about Melo this year. So he's shooting 43% from behind the arc,
Career high.
62% on corner threes. His true shooting percentage is 59%. That's a career high. 58% of his shots are three-pointers. That's a career high. He has the lowest usage rate of his career, 19%. So I don't want to hear, oh, it's Melo's fault and all that. He's getting like the ball the fifth or sixth most times. And 93% of his threes have been catch and shoot. So he literally has become the Olympic Melo in the NBA now. So, people are still going to blame him. They're still going to say he sucks and all of this. I just want people to know Olympic Melo is actually here. And to go back to the question, I like the way they're utilizing him. But as Velo said, they need to, post him up a little bit here and there because he is a rhythm guy. So if he goes 0 for 7 from 3, give him a post up, man. Like, just give him something, Like, you just want him out there doing cardio, as we say on Twitter, cardio Melo. We don't want that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with both of you guys. I think that especially lately, for whatever reason, like he just barely gets any ISO touches, and we like last night he scored 0 points, right? So I'm like, fuck, what the fuck am I gonna do for like these highlights tomorrow? Like there's literally not a single highlight, but there was back-to-back possessions where he got assists under a minute, and one of them was on a fast break. LeBron threw it up. Melo just quickly tapped it to Monk. But there was the second one where they gave it to him in the post. They let him operate. They who was it? I think Monk
Ellington.
Monk cut, and then Ellington, his man went with Monk to try to block him, and Ellington was wide open. So it's like, especially when whatever they're doing isn't working. Like I'm not saying, when Melo comes in the game, he needs to get the ball every time in the post like that. I don't think that's what any of us are saying. All we're saying is when shit's not working, give him the ball at the elbow, and if he misses it once, it's like, fuck, that's it. Like Melo's not touching it again. And it's like, that's not him. Like you said, he's a rhythm player. So give it to him like 2-3 times in a row. And that doesn't mean he's going to shoot it 2-3 times in a row. He might only shoot it one time. They might double him and, somebody might cut and get a layup, or they might double him and they might swing it around twice and Ellington might be open in the corner. Just whatever the case is, I feel like he's not being used as a playmaker enough. And like, yes, you have LeBron and you have Westbrook, and I don't really think AD's a playmaker, especially when he gets doubled. It seems like he panics. But I just think that he's being underutilized in the simple fact that he's way more of a playmaker than people give him credit for. And just because he never averaged over like 4 assists a game, people are like, oh, well, he's not a playmaker. He is. You just got to put him in the right position and let him ISO or, run some pick and roll him and AD. Like that's either Carmelo Anthony's getting a mid-range jump shot or AD is going to get good position on a guy who he's way taller than, or like something good is going to happen out of that. And I just feel like sometimes they rely too much on LeBron, Russ, and especially AD when AD's shooting like historically bad. That's where I'm like, I think Melo could be utilized a little more.
And low key, I think so far, at least in these 22, 23 games, this might be Melo's best defensive year I've seen maybe in the last decade. You like actually hear him. It's not just, I got to fuck out of here. It's more like, you hear like him commenting. You hear him like, being kind of like that captain of the ship, just kind of like pointing everything. And actually, like whenever he's guarding guys, like we know, real fans know that he's always been good and above average post defender. But like even now, like I was watching him yesterday, he kept up with like Jaren Grant a couple of times. With all these guards, Corey Joseph, like he's doing his part, even like individual one-on-one defense. So I think he deserves a lot of kudos in year 19, to fully commit on that side of the floor as well.
Yeah, AD is the defensive anchor, but Melo is the defensive leader. I think whenever he steps on the court, he's calling out screens, he's calling out coverages. What are they playing? Who's got to go where? Like he's calling all that out. And I just wish Melo would put his hands up a little bit more instead of going for the swipe. That's all I wish, man. Someone attacks the rack, Melo goes for the swipe. Just put your hands up one time, Melo.
I don't remember the last time I've seen him block someone with his arm going like up and down. I actually don't remember that.
Actually, he just had one a couple days ago. I think
Did he?
A couple games ago, yeah.
Where he went up and down and not a swipe?
No, he just like almost pinned it against the glass.
Really? Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had one this season for sure.
All right.
It was a rare sighting.
Shows how much I know watching these games.
Yeah, you don't know nothing about that.
I don't know what the fuck I'm on here talking about, I guess. Yo, real quick, sorry to interrupt if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but just wanted to let you know that we have merch at Control the Narrative, and it's pretty fire, in my opinion. This is the Pixel Melo t-shirt that I'm rocking. Anything from Cuse Melo to New York Melo, Hoodie Melo. On this shirt, we got Scapegoat merch, we got Black Ball merch, we got just regular Control merch. Shop CTRL the Narrative.com. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, stickers. Shop CTRL the Narrative.com. I think I got my point across. Go check it out. I bet you'll find something you like. Appreciate the support as well. Obviously, the merch sales help us fund these podcast episodes that we get to record every single week. So appreciate you. And back to the show. All right, Ramos, let's start with you on this one.
Sure.
Lakers struggles. Obviously, this team is at 500, and they have some of the best basketball players on earth. And they have a lot of times throughout the games where they just don't look like a great basketball team, and that compiles up when you look at the whole season so far. So all in all, do you think, if you had to pin it more on one or the other, do you think these struggles this year have been more on Frank Vogel, the coach? Like, do you think he should be on the hot seat, or do you think this is more on the players for just executing?
So to start the season, I thought it was on the players because Russ was shooting like absolute crap. Until he realized that he can bank the ball in and it's legal, and now he just doesn't miss.
Look who's talking, man, from three.
Yeah, he learned from me. And AD shooting 17% from three. That's the lowest in NBA history for someone who takes more than three-pointers a game.
Two
three-pointers a game. Okay, that's the lowest in NBA history. But, they're sort of rounding out now. Russ is playing much better. Like, you got to give him credit. AD, he's here and there. Sometimes he's, like, passive. Sometimes he'll drop 35 out of nowhere. But I got to say that now that the players are playing better, it's definitely Frank Vogel. Because, first off, his rotations are horrible.
Trash.
I mean, why does he take Melo out and sit him for, like, 2 minutes and then bring him back in?
45 seconds, dude.
Like, that's just he's a rhythm player. You got to know your personnel. Like, he's a rhythm player. Keep him in, take him out later, take him out earlier. Like, I don't know. You got to fix that. Why is DeAndre Jordan still starting? Why is he still playing? Why is DeAndre Jordan in the league? I don't know. And Reeves has to play more. I don't know why. Was it 2 games ago? Reeves didn't play at all?
Yeah, he just got back from an injury.
He's literally like the best plus minus on the team, period.
He's solid.
So he's Frank Ntilikina on the West. Okay, that's what he is.
That's gonna make some headlines on this podcast. I'll tell you that right now.
He's Frank Ntilikina. Frank Ntilikina was what Knicks fans wanted.
Don't let Mark Berman hear you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on Vogel. The players are starting to play really good now, and we're still seeing them struggle.
Do you think it's like literally just like his rotations? Do you think it's more offensive schemes, defensive? Like, what do you think it is about him specifically?
I mean, offensive schemes don't matter when you're on a LeBron team. It's just LeBron surrounded with shooters. That's literally all it is. Defensively, I mean, I guess, the paint is wide open every time. But I don't know. Like, I feel like defense is a little overrated. Like, you need buckets. That's what you need, in my opinion. But I think the rotations are like horrible. They need to tighten up the rotations for sure. DeAndre Jordan is a liability on both sides of the court, in my opinion.
Velo, you think it's Vogel's fault too?
I do. I unfortunately do. And I was kind of like thinking, I didn't want to be like, throwing him under the bus right away. They're missing, some pieces. LeBron missed some games. And obviously when LeBron, let team misses games, it's going to result in some losses. And Russ has been up and down. AD has been up and down. Melo bailed him out, like I said, at the beginning couple of games. They missed Ellington at the beginning a little bit. None didn't even play yet. Ariza didn't even play yet, right? So again, they are still not fully 100%. But I say it's on Vogel, and the reason why I say that is because the teams they lost to, and the amount of points they were ahead, and then all the leads that they lost, right? You just can't lose to Thunder twice. I don't care, what happens. I don't care who was sick, who missed games. Like the team with Russell Westbrook and AD should be that, Thunder team twice. You lose to Timberwolves, right? I know they're on the rise a little bit, last couple of weeks, but when you played them, they lost a lot of games.
And how they lost, I think, was very
exactly. And then who else they lost? They lost to, I think, Kings, right? Another really kind of bottom team. So they're losing these early kind of I almost thought that Lakers' schedule was a little bit too perfect, for them, because they had all these weak ass games at the beginning. So like they literally had the time to work on the chemistry and really get the kinks out, like first 15, 20 games, and take advantage of the schedule. Be like the Warriors, be like 17-3 or like 15-5 or something like that, instead of being 11-11 or wherever they are, right? So for me, that's on him, and I think you're seeing bad trends game after game, right? We almost feel like we're watching the Blazers because you kind of know how is it going to go down, right? You don't even it's going to come down the wire because they're going to blow up another lead because they start the games off slow and they start the third quarters off of slow, right? So you're constantly going through these bad trends, and Vogel, like previously said, he's not making any adjustments. So you're going through we've seen this movie before. And I say one more thing why I think that is look at what Thibs did with New York, man, today. He said, all right, it's not working out, man. I know, Kemba, we paid you and we loved you and whatnot, but it's not working out. You're not in the rotation anymore. And I'm not saying that Vogel should, do that to Russell Westbrook or anything like that, but I'm saying, that's what coaches do. That's what managers do. They kind of put you in a position to make those hard decisions. And I agree 100%. I have no idea. I believe that DJ is great for chemistry and he's good for 6 fouls and maybe some dynamic play with Russell Westbrook where they can open up floor and run some pick and rolls for maybe 5-6 minutes a game. But he should not be starting. I don't care how big the opposite team is. I don't care. Get that team rebounding game going with Melo, LeBron, AD. Put AD at the 5, tell him to dominate, and surround LeBron with shooters. You would think watching LeBron, they'd be like, oh, let's, surround LeBron with shooters. And then they're starting Russell Westbrook, and then they're starting DJ. And you're like, oh, that is a good. Yeah. Avery Bradley, he'll still make it, it depends on him, how he feels, right? He's kind of hot and then he's cold, but he's been kind of cold lately. But you really are not surrounding him with shooters, right? AD hasn't been shooting the ball well, but we know he can knock it down. And then you're surrounding with Westbrook and DJ that we know they cannot shoot. So I've always been a fan of starting Melo and putting either Ellington or, maybe I'd say even if they leave Bradley because, again, he can knock down shots, I feel like that is a great starting 5. And then, I feel like Monk is a person that you just need to make that New York Knicks, J.R. Smith, LA Clippers, Jamal Crawford type of player. He has that skill set. Make him that 6th player that comes, 6th player that comes off the bench and just get 5-6 touches through him. Make him make plays, either shoot, create a shot for himself, create for somebody else. Because he has that talent and he showed it, on multiple occasions. So that's why I say on the coach, there's just too many variables. You're seeing bad trends consistently over and over again. And I feel like that's something coach can change with better rotations and basically expecting more from his team. So.
Yeah, I think Frank could obviously do more. Yes, LeBron's been out. A lot of players have been injured here and there. I understand that. But this team should not be in 11-11. Everybody knows that. And he could be doing more. He could be making adjustments in general. He could be making more adjustments in the game and all that shit. But at the end of the day, I think this is more on the players. I think if this was a young team who needed guidance like that, I would understand. But they have fucking LeBron, Anthony Davis, and I'm not going to go down the whole roster of all the veterans that they have. These guys should be able to figure this shit out on their own. And again, I'm not excusing Vogel. I do not think he's a great coach, and people are like, oh, he should be fired. It's like, who else are they gonna bring in? Like somebody brought up fucking Mike D'Antoni. I've seen that a few times actually, and I'm just like, couldn't hit the block button quicker.
Dude, David Fisdale, man. Come on.
What'd you say?
David Fisdale, man.
Yeah, and that he would probably be one of the top.
Yeah, he'd probably get promoted. Yeah.
So I feel like that really wouldn't help anything. When you have all these guys who are veterans, again, I'm not going to go down the roster, but LeBron.
You know who they need to bring, to be completely honest?
Who?
Is Kenny Atkins.
I wouldn't be mad at that. But still, Melo, you don't think that this team with LeBron, forget about LeBron. LeBron was at 8-9 games. So even those games when they were losing to OKC and they were losing to Minnesota and all that shit, you don't think that Westbrook and AD alone, even Melo, Westbrook, AD, and Melo alone should be able to be like, all right, we know what we need to do to beat these teams. Dwight, DeAndre Jordan, Rondo, all these guys should have been yo, just straight off skill, just straight based off experience, how to win these games. And it's concerning that it's not. And again, I know it's going to take time for all that shit to mesh. And I know that Vogel is not, I'm not saying, he has nothing to do with this. He 100,000% does. But if I had to place more of the blame, I would be like, these players should be able to beat the fucking Thunder and not go 0-2 to them.
Yeah, truth is probably somewhere in between, between the players and Vogel. But however, I do see and I do feel like you as a coach, right? Even on a team where LeBron, right, and that we know how much decisions you can make, and with a star power like AD and Russ, sometimes it's hard for a coach to make certain statements, right? Because those guys are probably super vocal as well. But I'm saying, if you are going through 2 or 3 games against really bad teams and you're making same mistakes and you're constantly coming with no energy in, starting the game in the third quarter, I'm coming in that locker room as a coach and I'm smacking the backboard Steve Kerr style and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? And telling them exactly what you're saying, right? Guys, I shouldn't even be here. I should not be even coaching first 30, 40 games of the season because you guys are just so dominant at figuring all this shit out because there's, almost half a millennia of experience, of NBA experience on this basketball court, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming in, where he seems that he doesn't have that presence, like that Pat Riley or Greg Popovich, or even as I said, I just feel like, he's not also like a player's coach. He doesn't look like, like a Jason Kidd or maybe like Chauncey will maybe become, So what is he doing? He doesn't have the authority, it doesn't look like, but he doesn't also have this, the coaching schemes or whatever needs to get figured out. Because I really don't see, they're not playing defense, but they're not having this amazing sets on offense either, where you're like, well, goddamn, at least they're scoring 140 points a game. So, you win some, you lose some. There's nothing, there's no identity right now. And that's where I kind of put it on the coach.
Steve, I got a question for you. If instead of Vogel, the coach was Tibbs, what would you think their record would be?
22 games in, I'm going to go 15-7.
Yeah, I would say.
You don't think it's Vogel then?
No, like Velo said, 100% it's in the middle. But at the end of the day, I think it's more on the players. I just think Vogel can only do so much. If he came in at halftime and was like, get your fucking heads out of your asses. Let's go. We're fucking playing the Thunder, whatever the case is. It's up to the players as to they have to go out and I get it. Trust me, at Tibbs, it would probably be 16-6 or some shit if I'm being honest with you, because he's just such a great coach. I just think that if they fire Frank Vogel and it seems like the seat is getting hot. I don't know if that's just Melo Twitter, because I follow so much of Melo Twitter and shit that they're just get this fucking guy out, or if it's Lakers Twitter too. But I just don't even know what would happen next. All right, Fizdale's the coach now. That's not better.
But Steve, think about this. If Melo didn't have those amazing 4 or 5 games and Monk didn't have those amazing couple of performances, they're 7 and 15 right now, or 16. Vogel should be happy right now that Melo has his back this early in the season, because he literally bailed them out for 4 or 5 games, and things would look way, way worse. Because now they're 500. Yeah, we're still figuring out whatever. They can kind of keep that narrative going. But if they were like 6-16 or 7-15, this would be a completely different podcast, topic right there.
1,000%, man. And then last thing on this is like, I just thought about Anthony Davis. I was just thinking, what if Anthony Davis wasn't the worst shooter in NBA history from three? Like, that probably wins them a few games too. And it's like, all right, cool. Is it then on the coach to be like, yo, stop fucking shooting threes, like drive the fucking ball to the hoop? And then like, is that something that he should know? Like Anthony Davis, probably. Like how many years has he been in the league? Like 8-9 years now. Like he should probably know, shit. All right, I'm historically bad at shooting right now. I should probably get. Remember when JR was on the Knicks and whenever he would have like shooting slumps, the one thing that Clyde and Mike Green would always say is like, JR, like drive, not like fucking to him, but like on the broadcast, it's like, JR, drive the ball. You love seeing him get to the free throw line when he's struggling. I don't know why Anthony Davis doesn't do that. Like, it just makes no sense to me. And is it on the coach? Is it on the player? For me, like, yes, of course, Vogel is supposed to be like, yo, here's your stats, here's what's going on. But Anthony Davis, being a veteran in the league, NBA champion, or all-star many, many times, should have the self-awareness to be like, I should probably stop shooting these jump shots and get a little closer to the rim.
I don't know why basketball Godzilla of Anthony Davis does not play exactly like Giannis. Like, he is as dominant, he is as big, as long, as athletic. I just don't know why he literally just doesn't look, Greek freak and be like, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm literally just going to dunk on people all year long, and I'm not going to get tired of this. Because I sometimes feel like while Giannis just goes and keeps dunking and doing the same shit over and over again, for like James Harden saying, well, the only thing I can do is dunk. Well, if it works, keep doing it. I just feel like Anthony Davis, sometimes he'll dunk a couple of times and you're like, okay, he's going to have a good game. And then he's like, well, let me show you what else I can do. I can also do a jab step, mid-range, step back, or I can shoot the three. And I'm like, no, dude, just keep dunking on people. And that's all you need to do.
Raamish, have anything else to add?
Yeah, how many times do you think AD would fall if he kept like Giannis? Get injured second into the game.
That's a good over-under right there, man. You might want to put that. You might want to put it on your page, Steve.
Why does he do that? Like every single, if it's like a jump shot, he'll fall. If it's a layup, like I don't. It seems like he doesn't have his legs under him ever, and like he's still like bumping into them. He's
on the floor more than Italian soccer player, man. It's crazy.
I mean, I don't think you've heard this before. Mike Breen has definitely never said this, that he was when he was a senior in high school, he was a point guard.
Yeah. And
then he grew like 25 inches. So maybe that has something to do with it.
In 1 year. In 1 year, I think.
Yeah, so maybe he just wasn't ready, like.
Fair. But he's fucking, what, 27 now? Like, come on, AD. Fair enough.
All right, last interruption, because if you're watching or listening to the podcast for this long, you probably fuck with us. And if you fuck with us, you'll probably fuck with all the perks that you get from being a Control the Narrative member, whether that's access to our invite-only Discord where we're talking basketball all the time, or opportunities to join the next episode of Control. So whenever we need a guest, I go in our Discord, I say, yo, who's free? Who wants to hop on the next episode? And I pick from there. You get 20% off merch forever, and then you also get member-exclusive merch, all by being a member. Tiers start at $2 a month. So if you fuck with us, go check out a membership, CTRLthenarrative.com, and I will see you in the Discord. All right, back to the show for good.
All right, Velo, back to you to start this one. One thing I think has been really interesting, and I think has been something the Lakers have struggled with, is closing games. Besides the third quarter, just like closing games in general, offensively, defensively. But let's just focus on offensively for this one. How do you think they should finish games? And what I mean by this is, do you think they should run the normal offense? Do you think one guy should be isolating? Do you think it should be a mix of both? Like, how do you think who should be taking these shots? Like, what do you think should the Lakers' plan be at the end of the fourth quarter? And it seems like every other fucking game, OT, double OT, and all that.
Yeah, I wrote down a couple of things that I think are important, for this segment of the podcast and the question you asked. And I think the first one, specifically for closing games, is that last 3 minutes, LeBron needs to be the point guard and ultimate decision maker, and not Russ. Even if the Russ is on the floor in that closing, he needs to be utilized in a different role, right? So the ball should be as least amount of possible in Westbrook's hands to figure stuff out. he should maybe get like a kick out or something, then attack the rim and try to finish at the rim or something like that. That's the only time he should have it. He shouldn't be dribbling the ball 16 seconds around trying to figure out and be the closer for the Lakers, because he's not. So I think LeBron should have the ball last 3 minutes and make the ultimate decision. Who gets the shot, if he attacks, what plays they run, because I think he solidified that he has a great basketball IQ and that he's willing to make that extra pass. And with number 7 being with him on the floor and AD and stuff, I believe in his decision making. And but again, in my opinion, it should be Russ, LeBron, AD, Melo, and then the 5th person should be whoever's hot that game. So that should be like the interchangeable piece, in my opinion, right? One night it can be Monk, it can be Ellington. One night it can be THT. One night it can be whoever. But that should be kind of like the interchangeable piece with those 4 guys. And then as much as I want to talk about closing games, I think the last night's game, and even though it's kind of like a small sample size, it proved it to me that it's not about closing games, because this team, even though they might have not been able to close games so far, also there's been a lot of games where either LeBron or AD didn't play. So every time they were on, they usually close games well, and Melo helped out again at the beginning of the season with that. I think it much more comes to the first quarter and the third quarter execution and making sure they're not starting slow. They showed yesterday, even against the bad team like Detroit, they went on that run, and that run is what won them the game, right? So if they do more of that and have quarters like the third, and actually they don't necessarily need they need to step on the pedal and get and close games and get back from all these lead changes and deficits. I feel like if they focus more on that they will be able to close games much smoother and easier compared to like chasing leads and trying to do the impossible every other game. Fair.
Raamish, how do you think the Lakers should close out games?
So in terms of lineup, I actually agree with Velo. I think it should be, AD at the 5, Melo, Braun, Russ, and either, Reeves, Monk, Ellington, whoever's hot, THT, I guess, if he's hot. I just think that they need to utilize players' strengths more. Like Russ and LeBron both have taken threes for the win, and both clanked them. Like if you're gonna take a 3, give it to Melo. Run a play for Ellington, like something that makes sense. Not Russ just face up and shoot a 3. If you're gonna give it to Russ, maybe he has like 40 points that day. I would like to see Russ attack the rim or go for his elbow jumper or something like that. LeBron attack the rim. AD do whatever he does. I don't even know what AD does, honestly. Like one day he's the greatest mid-range shooter I've ever seen. The next day he can't post up, Chris Paul. I have no explanation. But a couple Melo post ups here and there, and because with Melo you're either gonna get a good shot, even if he misses, it's the same shot he's taken for 19 years. Simple turnaround mid-range fadeaway, or he's gonna get doubled, and you can get something out of it, get some movement out of it. Maybe Russ gets a cut. Ellington is open again. So they just gotta play to their strengths. I don't know why. LeBron decided to. He has games where he's like 0-10 from 3, 2 of 12 from 3. Like he needs to start playing to his strengths more in the fourth quarter. That's what I'd like to see.
Great point. And again, the reason I thought of this was because of how they ended that Sacramento game, and the game before that they were in Indiana, and LeBron kind of went off at the end of the fourth and overtime, and pretty much single-handedly won that game for them. And then that next game, it was just like, all right, well, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna live and die by LeBron. In that game, they died by it. And again, if it was LeBron and just like a bunch of shooters, you really don't have an option. But when you have AD and Russ and Melo, and you finish games where it's like, all right, LeBron 101 ISO step back 3, like let's go, let's win this shit. It's not like he's driving and kicking out to Melo for a corner 3 where there's a high percentage of that shit going in. Like it's just LeBron taking step back jumpers. They're not doubling him. They're not getting the ball out of his hands because they're living in the other team is like, yo, fuck it, we'll live or die by LeBron hitting a step back 3 or like a deep 3. So again, to your point, Raamish, like I just think they need to utilize the players that they have on their team. Like run some Russ AD pick and roll. Like let Melo ISO at the elbow, and either he's gonna get a good shot or somebody's gonna get a semi-open look if they swing it fast enough, or if Melo makes the right pass, which most of the time he does. It's just not always the direct pass. So that's what I have to say, man. I just think it's really frustrating where like a team like this can't close out the Kings 4 times in fourth quarter, single overtime, double overtime, and triple overtime. Like you can't close out a team, and you have all those guys on the floor, and like people could say, "Oh yeah, it's because they're all old," and like that's why, because you know their legs gave out, and like I guess that's kind of fair, but at the same time, like they have the experience to be like, all right, we know we need to get a good look this possession, or all right, we know that you know this is the possession that could really ice it, and they just haven't been able to. And like, of course, you could look at the first quarter and be like, yo, if they just don't go down 15 in the first quarter every fucking game, and if they don't come out and lose the third quarter by 20 points every other game, like you're not gonna have to worry about that. But then when you look at the playoffs and when you play the good teams, like you're not gonna like that shit is gonna come down to the wire. So they're gonna have to figure this shit out anyway. And seeing LeBron take step back jumpers just because he was able to close the game out for them once is concerning, because I just don't want that to be like the game plan moving forward when you have those other guys on the team who can get you a bucket, especially 6'8" or apparently now 6'7" forward from Syracuse.
Just look at the picture of the beginning of the year, like LeBron and Melo right next to each other, and they're like exactly the same height. I'm like, what is? I guess they're doing it now because it's like without the shoes.
Without shoes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
Wait,
all
they
right.
listed him at 6'7"?
LeBron's still 6'8", right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they list him as still a 6'8", which again, I don't think it really matters, but it's just it's funny to me.
This matters to us because years and years, Velo, we've been saying that 6'8" forward from Syracuse and copying the next PA announcer. So now saying 6'7" forward, it doesn't sound right. So
that's a European rule too. Like in Europe, you always measure without shoes, and I always liked it because in the United States it was with shoes because it makes more sense because you play in shoes. You never play barefoot.
Yeah.
So you're not 6'7". You're like that extra inch or inch and a half, whatever your shoes give you. So okay.
By the way, FYI, on a Basketball Reference, LeBron is 6'9" and Melo 6'7".
Yeah,
There's
the same thing. Like LaMelo Ball is like 6'8" too, and he stands next to Lonzo, and they're like the same height.
How tall is Lonzo? Like 6'5" or 6'6"?
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 6'6", something like that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, who cares? In NBA, I always heard crazy stories about Tracy McGrady and Tim Duncan and KD.
Yeah,
and,
KD
Vince Carter used to be like, they put him at 6'6", and then he's like actually 6'4".
Vince Carter 6'4".
That's what I heard. I mean, I never passed by the guy, but
You never measured him when you met him in public?
No, I did.
You didn't get to.
I see Juice, not Juice. I saw Butler. He passed by me, and Jerome Butler, and he's.
And you didn't just go like this to him, Velo? You're just like, yo, VC, like, come here real quick.
No, but I was surprised.
Why you got that on you?
And I'm 6'6". I'm 6'6".
What'd you measure him,
So
bro?
I passed by him. I was like, "You want to hoop, bro? What's going on?"
Raamish, why do you think I have this on me?
You be measuring something. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I ship out mad eBay packages, so I need to see when I sell sneakers. Or
Okay, like 6 inches, 7
I
inches, 8
sell
inches.
these
You need to see.
yeah, 6 inch, 7 inch,
Yeah,
like just
gotcha.
average size, nothing crazy. But yeah.
Not above average.
No Subway footlongs over here.
All right, I'm gonna stop this right here.
This is what y'all do over here.
First time Raamish just comes on and see how the combo just takes a weird fucking
Yes, sir.
weird left turn. All right. That's it. Thank you both for taking time out, but as you both know, or at least Velo knows for sure, before we let you guys go, we allow our guests to control a narrative. It doesn't have to be Melo related, it doesn't have to be basketball related, it doesn't have to be sports related. So whoever has one can just step up, and we will give you the floor to control a narrative.
You got one, Velo? Or
Yeah, I'll kick us off. And it's not even necessarily like, controlling the narrative. It's just giving a shout out to you, Steve, and, the entire Control the Narrative, Melo family. Because of you and kind of like what you started this, what is it now, like 3-4 years back? 2 years back. Ooh, okay. This is the first time I actually went further than it actually is. But I feel like for me, I have all these now faces, the Prodigy or the Prophet. I don't know what he goes by now, or QB. Yeah, QB 31. And I have Manny. I have you, and hopefully I have another, person. I have so many people now that I'm interacting online, and I'm having, a time of my life on Twitter timelines, just talking shit. and supporting one another and commenting and basically having this kind of mafia, Melo mafia around that thinks the same and sees the same thing and appreciates the game because we're actually watching the games. So even when he has a donut, we appreciate some of the decisions and defense, and we actually know that he had a good game, right? And we're kind of like honest, and when he even scores 15 or 20, we kind of like call him out on some of the stuff. So kind of cool to see that and to share that with somebody else, because for a long time I thought I was the only one who kind of like sees it that way, and the injustice that we felt, with Houston when it all happened. So I just want to kind of give you a shout out and kind of like give a shout out to the entire, Melo Mafia out there on Twitterverse that is making my nights that much more enjoyable as I'm watching the games and just enjoying the social media communication and interaction.
Appreciate that, Velo. Yeah, man. One thing that you said that I think is the most important thing is like at one point I feel like every single one of us thought, yo, is it just me who thinks that Melo can still play? Is it me who doesn't think he's washed? And like that's why I started this shit, because like I would talk to people and they'd be like, shut the fuck up, Melo's washed. And I'd be like, dude, you have no idea. Like, he just dropped 28 points on 9 of 12 shooting in Brooklyn like 2 weeks ago, and now he's not good enough to be on a roster. So I think that's the most important thing, man. It's just
when Melo was on that show, what was the shop with LeBron's show? He was talking to like Jason Sudeikis and everybody, and I think he has a quote from it when I guess his son was watching the games, and Melo would walk in the room, he'd be like, "Dad, like him, he's playing." Like I felt like that so many nights where I was like, him, he's playing and Melo's not playing. I was like, all right.
Jared Dudley.
I appreciate that, Velo. Also going to plug the Discord for both of you and also anyone who's listening or watching to hop in the Discord.
Let me sign up to that. I'm going to sign up.
Become a member as low as $2 a month, and that shit lately has been, I was talking. It's been bumping, and I was talking to someone recently, and I was like, yo, last year, like I kind of had to ignite the Discord or like, set it on fire, not set it on fire, but like, start it up.
Send the bat sign, send the Melo sign to the sky.
Yeah, but now it's like people are talking in that shit all game long, so it's cool. Shout out Vic. Vic's been huge on that shit, and it's tip off and Control the Narrative Discord when we get a THT sucks message in the Discord. So just wanted to
give a shout out to Steve too in Chicago. I don't know that. I feel like I know these guys for super long, but I've never seen them in person. But I genuinely feel like if I went to some of these cities, I think Steven in Chicago, I legitimately feel like I would have like a family member there that I can reach out to. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Dude, we did that at the meetup after the game last week, where like people are coming up to me and I'd see their Twitter picture and I'd be like, yo, what the fuck is good? Or like they've been on the podcast. Shout out Joey, who was like on the podcast over a year ago, and anyway.
I was gonna come and see everybody in New York. I legitimately wanted to come this year, but I was, visiting my wife's side of the family, so I was actually in Tennessee for the holidays. So, and the game was literally, a little bit before Thanksgiving. So
2 days, yeah.
So
fair enough.
Next year.
One time, I'm telling you, man, when we're in a better situation than we are today with COVID, we're gonna have a huge control thing in New York City, whether it's Melo's first game back with the Knicks or like his last game at MSG or some shit, and it's gonna be crazy. So
for sure.
Thanks for those words, Velo. Raamish, what narrative you want to control?
So I just wanted to speak about John Wall, and I want to free John Wall so he can come on the Lakers, and he can, I don't know, he'd probably be on the bench, but Russ.
That's what we need, another guard that cannot shoot.
No, I think Wall's way better than Russ though with shooting. I think Wall could shoot like average, like 35% from three. Like average-ish.
I know.
He got a good mid-range.
Raamish, I know what's going on with John Wall, but why don't, for the few people who don't know what's going on with him in Houston, why don't you?
So pretty much, he's on the team. He has this huge contract, but Houston Rockets have told him they're not going to play him. So he got on IG and he was like, free me, so now it's like, Houston basically has held him hostage. Because that's what Houston does. They either blackball you out the league or they hold you hostage. That's what
sounds familiar.
Does. Yeah, that's what they do. So yeah, everyone's waiting on something to happen with John Wall because they're just wasting a year away. Sure, he's getting paid, but at the end of the day, he's an NBA player. He's a superstar. He wants to play. He wants to show the world what he can do. I'm expecting a buyout sometime. If not a buyout, a trade. But I don't know. His contract is insane. That's the only thing that I think.
It's like $40 million, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something crazy. Like I wouldn't want Lakers or Knicks to like trade for him, but I would love if he got bought out. I would love him on either of those teams. Like I still think he can give you like 18 and 8 or something. Like I still think he's a productive player. So yeah, I just want to shout out John Wall.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of ups and downs, but he came back, and people kind of like shit on. He didn't have a great year. Well, like first of all, it was Houston with like literally nobody, but he still averaged like 20 points a game, 21 points a game after all those injuries. So I thought it was pretty impressive for him to do that. So for him not to play at all this year and not to kind of have that all set up before the season started, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
fucking Rockets, man. Fucking Rockets. Way to bring it back to the beginning there, Raamish. Wrap that up pretty nicely. Velo, Raamish, I appreciate you both. It was a dope episode. 44 minutes in. I put 3 questions because I was like, besides the control one, because I was like, all right, maybe it'll be like a little bit of shorter one. And again, I know for people who listen to this, watch this the full way. You probably heard me say this for like 5 times out of the last 2 months, but I'm telling you, man, we just get to fucking talking, and next thing I know, it's 45 minutes later. So appreciate you both for taking 45 minutes out of your night. And their social medias will be in the Twitter. If you want to go will be in the Twitter. Jesus fucking Christ. Their Twitter accounts will be in the YouTube description if you want to go and interact with them on Twitter throughout the games. I think they're both pretty good follows, if I'm being honest with you. So go check them out. But again, fellas, appreciate you guys.
See ya.
Thanks, Steve.
Remember, baby.